Hi everybody, welcome to back to Beyond the Facade. It's been a hot minute, and we wanted to get back with a new episode. We didn't forget about everybody. This is just definitely life gets in the way, but we definitely wanted to, come back. This is Doña Junta from Swami Chronicles.
And observing spooks and other vices.
Yeah, that's Sabrina over there, and we have a new episode for you today. Just something to share some local history of kind of the area we're at, something we kind of heard about years and years ago.
Our entire lives.
Yeah. And it kind of came up recently when I went to get a new phone, and there was this young kid helping me with, setting up the phone or whatever. He worked there. And, I was telling him about the podcast, and he said, "Oh, have you guys done an episode on Vanderlip's mansion?" And I'm like, "No." And I started laughing because he was probably like 18 or 19 and he knew about it too. So I'm like, whoa, this is like something, an urban legend that goes way back.
Yes.
So, and I had no idea that even you in a whole different um, city. I mean, you're not that far, but I usually thought it was people in Pedro or PV that maybe knew about this legend.
No, it's all over. It's all over the harbor area, the greater harbor area, I would say. Always someone talking about the mansion and the spooks that haunt it. Yeah.
When
Since I
did you
was young.
first hear about it yourself?
Probably in my early to mid teens.
Okay.
I want to say that was like a spot, especially for teenagers. It was like more I would say the generation above me, like 10 years or so, like they would talk about it and they would go up there. I'm thinking at that time it was accessible. Like you could go by it because I've never been to all the way up there without that security gate personally.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it was maybe at one time, maybe that gate was not there.
Yeah.
And we'll explain that. So we'll explain what we're talking about right now. But we're gonna do an episode on the Vanderlip. There's no S. I'm used to saying Vanderlips.
Yes.
I don't know why that's how it's always been, but it's just literally Vanderlip.
Well, if it's plural, it could be Vanderlips. So you're not necessarily
the Vanderlips family, I guess.
Yeah.
So what happened was that kid, 18-year-old kid working at a phone store, was like, you should do an episode on it because he also, being 18, knows about this and probably had friends that gone up there. I'm not sure if he said he gone up there. So I'm like, whoa, this is still going on till this day, this urban legend that what is going on with this? And yeah, myself, I had heard about it also in high school more like. And I known, a few people that had gone up to the gates and stuff like that. We could talk about what they supposedly seen or heard. And I only gone later on in time up to that gate, so I never really went up there fully to where this place is at.
Me either, I must admit.
Right. So yeah, so we're just going to talk about this urban legend that's been around for decades, and it's mostly based in this harbor area, obviously now, but maybe it's something that other people from other places have heard. I mean, never know.
It's quite possible.
Do you know if your paranormal like people know about this place, or it's been ever brought up?
I think in the circle it was maybe mentioned, but I think the fact that it's inaccessible and it causes a real issue because, we'd probably go and try to get in or get closer to if we could, but it's really difficult to because of the security.
Yeah. I think
I
that
do have a friend in my early 20s, mid 20s that said he went there. Now, I don't know if it's true, and he's my age. And I haven't talked to him in years and don't know how to get a hold of him. But he did recount, a time that he went.
Yes. So we're going to kind of go back into a little bit of the history of the family, the Vanderlip family, especially Mr. Frank Vanderlip. He was the main one that kind of is paternal father figure and all this. And then around surrounding him is all the stories regarding his family, his wife, his children. So, but it starts with him because he was the one that kind of brought the family over to PV. It's in Spanish it's Palos Verdes. If you say it in English, it's Palos Verdes. I just say PV.
Be safe.
Yeah, I mean, people that live in PV are really well off, and we'll explain that too. It's a very wealthy, well off area. It's not like many of the other surrounding cities. So we're gonna kind of talk about the history of Vanderlip family, himself, his wife Narcissa, which has a role as well in kind of the history. They had a bunch of kids, I think like six or something kids,
Yes.
and then just like these urban legends, the main urban legends that we heard over the years, which are really silly when I dug into them. And then the ones I kind of knew about already, but there's like some main ones that were like, what is that about? And then
Yeah.
just kind of the family's reaction to it and kind of what happened to the house now. So we'll kind of go over all that stuff. So let's go back to, I guess, describing the area. So the Vanderlip mansion is located at 99 Vanderlip Drive. So he has his own street because he owns
Ooh,
a bunch of that area. And
fancy.
Palos Verdes Estates, right here in California. So if you're not from LA or California, it's in California. Um, Again, Palos Verdes is considered a wealthier part of LA County. The neighboring cities are San Pedro, Rancho Palos Verdes, Rolling Hills Estates, and then Torrance and Lomita on the other sides. So it's kind of like a exclusive area in a sense. It's kind of low key though. It's not like Hollywood Hills or anything.
Yes. It's definitely like a peninsula. So it's not a full island, but it's out there. It's the outermost part of the land before you hit ocean. And so
Right.
it's very secluded. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely more low key. It's not like where young kind of people with money are at. It's old money. So
Definitely.
at least according to this family, they're old money. So and then again, this is just something that I thought it was interesting because we just kind of heard his urban legend, but never really like knew why or any of that. So I did want to, I did some research on Frank Vanderlip, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how he all ties into everything. So Frank Vanderlip was born November 17th, 1864. He did die June 29th, 1937, which was only like a week ago or less. So that's when he died. He would have been 84 years as of last since his death. He was born on a farm in Aurora, Illinois, and it was reported that Frank's family was poor and originally came from Holland. As a young kid, Frank dropped out of school, went to work and helping his family out. He worked 12-hour days at a machine shop for 75 cents a day. And then when he was working, he seemed pretty ambitious. He decided to go to school at night, and while he was at school, he was still working at the machine shop helping his family. Uh, so it sounds like he must have been super ambitious because he kind of worked his way up to what he became. So he ended up getting an opportunity to work as a porter in a newspaper company at the time. And when he got into a newspaper company, he was able to get an opportunity to actually become a journalist. You know, he had really good networking skills. He became a journalist, and then he moved his way up in journalism and ended up getting an opportunity working as a financial editor for the Chicago Tribune. And during that time, he learned and bought stock because he was writing about stock and finances. He ended up buying a lot of stock himself. And he also decided to continue his education during that time. So he didn't give up. He was still like filling in the gaps for his education and to get more opportunities. So he ended up becoming an economist, associate, an editor for the Economist. I guess it's some magazine or newspaper we don't know about. And then later on, he ended up becoming the assistant secretary of the U.S. Treasury. So he was doing a lot. I don't even know how he did all that, right? Like just moving his way up.
Yeah, by sheer grit.
Exactly.
Honestly,
His main role that he was known as was he first started he moved his way up as president of the National City Bank from 1909 to 1919. So that's where he became extremely successful in the finance world. And then he was involved in so many endeavors. He was fighting against prohibition, and then he also became married his wife, which she'll be talking about in 1903. So he did start off pretty poor, rural, and then just zoomed his way up. I mean, there's no barriers for him, obviously.
yeah, nothing can
And
keep him down.
no, and he did it, and then he married Miss Narcissa Cox, right?
Yes, yes.
And had a bunch of kids. But tell us about her a little bit.
Well, I'm just gonna give you a little overview. So, Miss Narcissa Cox Vanderlip, her first name was Mabel Narcissa
Oh,
Vanderlip.
okay.
Mm-hmm. So she was born February 8th, 1880, in New York or in Illinois, excuse me. And she died in Scarborough in 1966. A fun fact about Narcissa and Frank is she is 16 years his junior.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
a 16 years age difference between the two of them.
Of course.
Of
He was
course.
like, I want a hot younger woman.
Well, she definitely was the trifecta of what a woman you would want back then for a man so ambitious.
Yeah.
Not only was she beautiful, she was intelligent, but she came from wealth.
Okay, so she actually came from old money.
She came from old money.
Okay.
Her parents were activists, were successful activists, and she was the youngest of 6 kids herself, and she was educated from her early beginning and definitely praised and expected to go on, and she did. And she went to school, and she didn't finish college. She almost finished college, and she later went back and got her degree, but
Okay.
she left early. She dropped out to marry her beloved. Now, how many of us women do things like that? Ridiculousness. Finish your college education, ladies. Don't wait. So she had 6 children. Their names are Charlotte, Narcissa, Virginia, Frank Jr., Kelvin, and John.
Oh. So there is one she named Narcissa, right?
There is. And she has a
Okay.
granddaughter named Narcissa as well.
Oh,
And I
wow.
hope that becomes a family tradition and just gets passed down and passed down and passed down forever.
Yeah. Tell us what Narcissa means. Do you know what it means? Because I know you've been liking that name for a long time.
No, I don't really. I mean, it's like it's from Greek mythology, you know. So it's like
Isn't
the
it a
female
flower or
version.
something?
It probably is. You caught me off guard with that question. I should have looked into it. I didn't think about it. So also another fun fact about Miss Narcissa, which again I adore her name, is she was good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt, one
Oh,
of the
okay.
first lady, married to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And her and Frank were activists, and activism and philanthropy was her bread and butter. That's all she did, and she was just as active as Frank. And probably the reason where he is where he is because he had a strong woman pursuing the same dreams and ambitions as him right next to him.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think she was part of, she started the League of Women Voters,
She did. She was a
right?
suffragist. she was the first chair in the New York State League of Women Voters.
Wow. So yeah, she definitely did a lot. And
She did. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Between her and Eleanor Roosevelt, many philanthropic endeavors they opened up for women's and infants, and for immigrant rights, and so many other. I can go on and go on, but we don't want history a history book lesson. So there's just some fun facts about her. She seemed like a pretty strong, independent woman, all on her own.
Yeah.
She sounds like someone I would definitely like to talk to if she were still here and pick her brain.
Yes, exactly. So they were living in the East Coast, and then Frank ended up buying property in PV. And what I would think I was reading, if I got this right, that he bought the property without really seeing it first. Like, I guess he just bought it.
And maybe surveying it, like, and having it all checked out. Yes.
Yeah, and it was 16,000 acres, so it's a big area over there in that coastal part. If you're from the area now, you'll see like that glass church, Wafers Chapel. That's part of it. There, all that area, the 16,000 acres around there, was what he bought, and he bought it specifically to build his house, like to oversee, the ocean, and kind of reminiscent of, I think they said like of Italy or some kind of place.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, Mediterranean. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to emulate the French style of the time, and bring that kind of class to this area, and have a thriving city that mirrored Europe and France with a Mediterranean style. And you can see it. You can definitely see the touches to this day.
Yes. So the house was built in 1926, and they call it, it's known now, we know it as Vanderlip Mansion, but it's called Via Narcissa. As far as, I don't know if the street's Via Narcissa or one of, because there's several little houses on there, but there's a main house. And there's a gatehouse before the gate. There's like that house on the bottom.
Yeah. I think that one's called the Cottage.
Okay. And then Via Narcissa, I believe is the street, but don't quote me on that. Or it could be the main house. I'm not sure, but we used to just call it Vanderlip Mansion. Sorry,
the main house is called Villa Narcissa.
Okay.
If you're a white girl and you pronounce it just Villa.
So it is a Mediterranean / Spanish type of revival home. Very beautiful. So many details. So many like beautiful gardens and patios. It's like custom made for him. And they actually lived in the house. The family, it was passed on for forever until about 2017-16. They sold it. The family sold it, I guess, to some artists or whatnot. But it was in the family for years, and they sold it for a good chunk of money. It still seems cheap compared to what it would have been somewhere else. I think it was like 11 million or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
So the basis of these urban legends is based around the house, because teenagers from San Pedro to Carson to PV were obsessed with having to get in the car with our other friends, probably drinking after Friday night, and the whole thing was like, let's go to Vanderlip. Let's go to Vanderlip. I mean, I remember hearing that myself.
Yes. Probably after Sunken City, then like Vanderlip or one or the other, vice versa.
Yes. So kids will go up there in cars and try to get somewhere to the house. Like, either, again, I don't, like Sabrina was saying, we don't know if there was gates at the time. I don't remember if there was actual gate, or they're talking about the gate when they get to the house, because I hear different stories as far as those gates. Some people have got into the gate, and there's been people that even trek the paths around the place.
Bananas.
Yes. So what we were kind of looking at was that these urban legends have been going on since the 1960s. So it makes sense why we were hearing them in the 90s, because they already had been around when we heard them. and the kids now are still hearing them.
It's our own personal haunted mansion in our location, in our like in the harbor area. It's a
Yeah.
fun story, although the basis and some of the legends are a little silly. I'll just say that it's still kind of fun to have a haunted mansion.
Yes. So one of the stories, one of the main stories, I guess, that they were saying was, which I thought was weird AF, was that Frank Vanderlip, he was upset at his daughter Narcissa, the daughter, because she married an African American man and had his baby, and he didn't like that, and he threw her into a mental asylum in one of the houses, or he made it into an asylum, I don't know, and he killed the baby and the husband, which I never heard that one, but I think that's like a real messed up one. Like, come on, really?
Yes, yes, and the thing that I find interesting is through the research, and when we were researching and some of the information you've sent me and back and forth, that story is pretty prevalent, although I've never heard that version whatsoever, which almost makes me think when something like that is so prevalent that maybe there's some, not so much murder, maybe, but there's something to it. Maybe there was some kind of affair. We'll never know, probably. But I would go on a limb to say that maybe there's some sort of truth in that whole scenario. I hope there was no infanticide, or hopefully no one killed any babies or killed the man, but maybe Narcissa was seeing a black man, an African American man, and maybe her father didn't like it.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, just from who knows what, obviously they're in a different era. I mean, there's never anything about, we'll never know about any like racial discrimination with him towards others, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that was, to me, in my opinion, I feel like that was probably something easy to kind of say, and because it's, especially because it's a rich area, so it's like, oh, they're gonna be racist, so that's gonna be like for sure gonna be something that they're not gonna like.
True.
I could see some PV kid making that up. I don't know, I don't want to make assumptions, but that's just weird.
Yeah. It is weird. And then if we think about the timeline, because if her father did this per se, I don't have the date, like her actual date of birth, the daughter Narcissa, but he died in what, 1937?
Yeah.
So then that's a little awkward. His Narcissa, the mother of Narcissa Cox Vanderlips, there I go with the lips, Lip, went on to live for another 30 years. So I don't know how old the daughter Narcissa was, if that would even make sense time wise.
Yeah, it probably doesn't.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. You're probably right. Although I still feel like there's some kind of truth in there somewhere. Maybe it wasn't her, maybe it was something else. Yeah. I don't know.
The second main one was that Frank's wife, Mabel, or Narcissa, the wife, that she had a mental illness, and she probably had a psychotic episode and murdered the whole family and chopped them up and put them in the walls and then killed herself. And then she also killed the dogs. And yeah, I heard that one.
I heard that. Yeah, and then she chopped them off and fed them to the dogs and hung herself. I remember that one.
Yes. Which is beyond ridiculous, right? Like, you can't just put bodies in walls without some kind of like evidence of that, right? Or something, right? It's just ridiculous. And also, we know now, like, supposedly these people, Mabel and Frank, were buried they died in New York, or I think Frank did, because he was getting some medical stuff done and he ended up dying, and I think he's buried over there, and so is the wife. So I don't know, like, how that one started. Maybe she could have had mental health later on in age, but as far as chopping the whole family up, and putting it in the walls and nobody knows about it, come on now.
A little outlandish. And she died at like 86 years, so she lived a fairly long life. So, I mean, there could be mental illness toward the end, but we know for one thing is for certain that the house stayed in the family for quite a while. So even if she did kill the rest of the children, she didn't kill one. I believe it's Kelvin that had the house, or maybe it was Frank Jr. and then Kelvin's son had the house. I'm not sure. Don't quote me.
A lot of them
But
did, like they're couples or whatever. The one they married, they did, because there I believe there's a few different houses on the property, but some had the main property and some had the gatehouse on the bottom, and
yeah,
there's a it's kind of hard to tell who had it, who had the who had what, but yeah, they did have the house up until they sold it not long ago. So the another one I heard is people going up there, hearing crying children, family members in the window. A famous one is the dogs with the glowing eyes.
yes, yes, that's the one you always hear. Or the woman that's like, I think in our research we read that there was a woman in gray, but I've heard the woman in white.
Yes.
And I've also heard that she screams at them to like get out. Like, get
Yeah.
out.
Yes, and I also heard that, like, I think my friend told me this, that they went up to the gate and they seen dogs and they were barking, but nothing came out, like silent barks.
Yes, yes. But the glowing eyes specifically is definitely something I've heard.
Right. So I mean, as a teenager, I kind of low key believed it, but I think I was kind of more scared to go up there because of that. I know I had several friends that did, but it seemed pretty real. Teenage brain, we kind of believe everything.
Well, as an adult, I still believe all that stuff anyways.
Yeah,
I
that's
would love to
true.
go. My friend Chris that went there, or supposedly went there. Chris, if you're listening, you're being put on the spot. He said he went up there and the door was wide open and he could see two dogs and he described them as Doberman pinchers.
Oh yeah, they're always Doberman pinchers.
Always with glowy red eyes and like growling, and then the white woman, the woman in white, I should rephrase that, screaming, "Get out!"
Yes, yes, yes. Or like
Or
somebody floating or apparitions like through the roads and stuff.
yes.
So that was really scary, hearing it. And for years, I forgot about this place. I didn't think twice about it at all because I guess I kind of knew it was fake, but until the kid brought it up. But it was interesting hearing where did this derive from. One of the family members says that the family had a really hard time with people constantly going up there to try to get to the house. It was almost like a daily or every other day occurrence where people were sneaking through the gate, sneaking through the trails, like he would have to kick people out all the time or something, or they had to call the cops all the time. So that must be really annoying. But he did say that there were times he'll try to scare them, kind of like play with them. But he was like, there was times too where it wasn't like just teenagers; it was like 40-year-old women trying to find ghosts.
That sounds like me.
Right? So he was like, it was people of all kinds of people, and I mean that's the family really got annoyed by it, and they already know that their house and family is known for this. So they're not surprised. They're kind of just like, oh God, they roll their eyes. But yeah, I mean, why they pick Vanderlip to kind of target as the reason that, he thinks that because they were kind of private and they were kind of private and they're kept to themselves as far as in their vicinity. I don't think there's many neighbors there. So people were curious, genuinely curious. I don't know if that's just their way of saying that.
I think too, the fact that they live in such a secluded area on top of like the hill, so close to like, you know, nothing, to like the water, the cliffs, the ocean, the fact that they were very private and they didn't let a lot of people into their circle or into their family, business or information, or family business. Like they didn't talk. They're very private people. And who knows, maybe there was some sort of incident that happened that spurred the whole conversation. Like
Mhm.
it could, Narcissa could have had some kind of episode or something, or maybe one of her children, and that could have spiraled and all of a sudden became that crazy lady that lives in the house in the hill, and then so forth and so on, years and years later.
Yeah, it could have been. There was another kind of theory that the family said that they think it's the reason that everything started. I guess in the 1950s, one of the daughters, one of the son's wives, her father. So it was like a father-in-law of the. It was one of Vanderlip's son married a woman, and it was her father.
Yeah, and he was from like Norway, right?
Yes. So they would say that, I guess, because he was really light skinned, very fair, and he would walk around with those old sleep shirts and those caps and the lantern. It looked pretty creepy. So
I love it.
so supposedly it could have derived from him kind of walking around the area looking like a ghost, and people kind of making up rumors, right? Or the urban legends. So
Exactly. And I think not every single time, but I think a lot of the times with urban legends, there is some kind of a story that it spurs from. Like it just doesn't come out of thin air and, creates itself. There's some kind of historical action that takes flight and becomes creative into what we know as an urban legend.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah. So like I was saying, in high school, a few people went, but other than that, nobody nobody really like for it's never been a full fact. And I guess from doing the research now, we see it was just pretty much like a myth. You see people commenting on some of these, paranormal type of pages, and they kind of say similar stories. Some people swear it's true and whatnot, but I guess the timeline doesn't match with all the deaths, like the actual people that died. Like they died at different times at different ages. Not, it just
Different
doesn't make sense.
places. And
Yeah.
I would say that if Narcissa was haunting anywhere, it'd probably be somewhere like in New York where they lived before they moved here, or in Chicago or in Illinois where they came from initially. I don't this It's a lovely place. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the paranormal, there very well could be a haunting. There's always a weird air about Palos Verdes. Like things just always seem otherworldly,
Uh huh.
and not necessarily in a good way. There's something to that place. However, getting back to that house, to the Villa Narcissa, to the mansion, it doesn't mean that there wasn't someone who died on the property previously before they took possession of that land, or maybe a worker or a staff member, or later on. There very well could have been. There's something about Palos Verdes. It's very angry.
Yeah. I mean, I lived right next door to it my whole life, and of course, it's never been welcoming.
Yeah, no.
Not because, you know, they're like throwing things at you if you go to PV, but it's a whole different world. I mean, I remember even from where I used to live, like pretty much in the hood, looking up at the hill, and you just see the hill with all these mansions dotted along the road. You could see it because
Yeah,
the hill goes pretty high. It was just another world. It was rich, wealthy. That was not ever going to be accessible to us, and whoever lived there was lucky. I don't know. At the time, it was not connected to us in any way. In high school, when we finally got like cars, people that we knew got cars, we would drive around the coast. go to like the lookout spots, and sometimes in PV it's really dark. The roads are really dark. There's not much street lighting, so it does look very kind of lonesome. And I could see where you say it feels like it's that dark energy.
I maybe I was a little harsh when I said dark, but it's a very suspicious energy. And maybe I feel that way is just like as you described, because if you've ever been a person that looks like you or I going to Palos Verdes and walking around the mall or going to Peninsula High, because my daughter used to be on a team and she used to compete against people in Peninsula High. And just in those areas, you can tell that you're definitely an outsider. And no one throws anything like you, like no one's throwing tomatoes and saying, get out of here, get out of my town. But they are looking at you like, what are you doing here? Like, where'd you come from and where are you going? And I
Yeah,
have
I didn't really.
stories.
Yeah. I could see you being connected with the school and having to be involved. In high school, I never even met nobody that went to PV High or anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. Us either.
I
And
mean, we were so close yet so far.
it's completely two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I've had stories of some nurses that I know that worked up there, and this woman in particular, she was African American, or she is, and every time she'd go, she'd get pulled over driving in those dark, lonesome streets, as you described, or lonely streets. They're not. I see, when you live in a place like that, you can pay for not having those bright lights in your face all the time like we have to live with, and so you can have complete darkness. And so it's kind of foreign when you go and you can't see anything and you have to put your brights on because you don't want to crash into a hill. But yeah, she used to get pulled over all the time, so, and for no reason, just because her car wasn't amazing and because she didn't really fit the bill of a person who may live in Palos Verdes per se.
Yeah, and up there is Rolling Hills Estates, Palos Verdes Estates, and most Rolling Hills is a gated community, so it's even harder to get in there.
I had a friend who lived in Rolling Hills as a child. She lived on either Dapple Gray or Strawberry Lane, and she had horses like right outside her home.
Oh wow.
And we used to go explore all the time. When we took our horse like once, which we were freaking young. We were like 11, walking around with the horse, like, and that's nothing over there.
Yeah.
And
My
hiding.
sister had been a caregiver to older rich women over there too, and which were really sweet. But yeah, they're up in the estates just chilling.
Just, yeah, yeah. So it's definitely a whole different world, and it's beautiful. Maybe it's because it's untamed and there's just a lot of area that's not spoken for, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still natural. So
Yes.
it definitely has an air of mystery to it.
Yeah, no type of congested city vibes at all. And it's not far from downtown or even down the street, other cities that are all congested right there. But yeah, so as far as Frank Vanderlip, he was known as the father of Palos Verdes because I guess he didn't do anything like as far as like I guess because he owned a lot of the land and he became prominent, but they call him that kind of in that
Yeah.
sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lunada Bay and Malaga Cove are there, named after, there because of them. Like all that stuff they brought to life. They saw the vision and brought
And
that stuff to
Portuguese
life.
Bend, I think too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful areas. People can still go there now and enjoy Portuguese Bend, Wafers Chapel. There's a bunch of cliffs, and it's beautiful still, and it's accessible to the public. At least the beach parts, not his house.
Not his house.
Um,
Because we tried to go multiple times. We tried. We did, you guys.
we didn't get past the gate.
Nope.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, we just wanted to share that urban legend. We talked about probably just sharing more urban legends or just talking about more mysteries or unfortunate um, happenings here in the harbor area. So that's kind of another angle we're gonna be sharing with you guys on the podcast. We did some exploring yesterday. We're gonna talk about some things going on in Wilmington, as we do love Wilmington as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be sharing some stories, and if anybody has ideas of places they urban legends they heard about in the Harbor area or Los Angeles that you want us to dig into, I mean, we'd be happy to do that and either get you on or shout you out. Thank you, Mario, for sharing our story of him going to Vanderlip, and
Vanderlips.
also checking it out as a teenager. Most people I think did. So thank you for sharing your story. It was the same thing, the whole dog situation.
Yes, and the hanged woman or the woman in white and her screaming. Yeah, it's a variation of that kind of story, one way or another.
Exactly.
And
So
I'm so excited
yeah.
because
Oh yeah,
Narcissa,
share that.
I'm going to share this with you guys. I'm not going to share you everything because this is a top secret vacation that you guys can't know about yet. I've been planning it for 6 years, and we'll just say it's in New England.
6 years? What?
I think it's been 6 years, maybe 5, but it's definitely been some years.
No,
and I haven't
it's
gone
been
yet.
like
It's
10
because...
years. No, as long as I known you.
No, it has, maybe not. I don't know, but it's definitely been a while. And New Orleans calls me every year, so I know if I go, it ends up being New Orleans. Anyway, my girl Narcissa is in one of the cemeteries I've been planning to go for quite a while. She's in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Nice.
And I can't wait to go see her. I think it's gonna have to be 2023 though.
Yeah. Do you know where Frank is at?
He's there as well.
Oh
They're
my
together.
God.
Well, he's from where is he from again?
Somewhere in New York.
No. Like his family's from
Illinois.
I'm having a brain fart right now. It's the country. They're Dutch.
Oh, Holland.
Holland, yeah, they're Dutch. And Sleepy Hollow is like a Dutch city, like a little Dutch town. It's known for that. Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod Crane, you guys remember them?
Is there does it have an interesting description of how it looks?
The cemetery?
Yes.
Oh, the cemetery is gorgeous. If you like cemeteries, yeah, you should put a little Google search for Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Sleepy Hollow, New York. It's amazing. Like I'm gonna make sure that Doña Junta comes with me some way or another. I'm gonna like twist her arm. And I never fail her, only when we go to wineries and I tell her it's 30 minutes. But otherwise, I never fail her as far as places to go. So she'll have to go, but she'll love it because the greenery. It's right by the Hudson River, and it's so green. And the moss.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Can't wait to go.
Yeah, and we're as far as the podcast, we're gonna do our best to do as much as we can. We still figuring out the technical side to it. It's definitely not easy, but we're gonna try to do our best. We got to figure all that out so we could bring you guys more episodes more consistently. It's just trying to learn all this new stuff and how it actually works all together. I mean, nobody taught us this. We got to learn ourselves. So
yes, and that's been something else. And yeah, thank you so much for being patient with us and realizing that we, this is something we do because we have a passion for it, and we do both have full-time lives.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
But we want to bring this to you because we love this and we love doing this and interacting with you guys. So thank you for being patient.
Yeah. So we'll also be looking into scheduling some interviews as well coming up in the summertime. Most likely end of July, maybe August, some interviews. We just got to get all that with them together. And then, probably do some actual recording out in, the locations that we want to be at and be there live. Sometimes it just gives a different feel. Like when we went to the Cecil, having the podcast and talking about it in front of the Cecil or behind it was really cool. So just doing stuff like that. We're gonna try to, get more creative and just do our best. But just we're not good. We're doing our best to continue and do as consistent as possible.
And if you have any locations or urban legends, as Doña Junta said before, or suggestions of where you think we should cover, please let us know and we'll definitely take it into consideration. Not that we don't have a full list of things we want, But if there's something that you guys all want and it seems to be like a reoccurring theme, we definitely would want to check that out for you guys.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, if anybody's an expert in podcasting, we're willing to take help just to get more of an idea. I think asking for help is never a bad thing. So if anybody wants to show their expertise, we'll be willing to learn more just to get better at it. That's the only way we're gonna get better at it, by asking for help. And then, just as far as that, there's a couple of things coming up. I'll be doing a panel discussion next Saturday on Incredible Javier's channel. It's called The Day Room. He has a segment, so I'll be with a panel of women. We're going to be discussing different topics. So I'll be posting the links on that. We're also trying to do our best to set up the podcast in YouTube and upload it to YouTube. That is also another whole challenging thing, because it's not easy. So I give props to all those people that are technologically savvy, know how to edit podcasts, freaking YouTube and all that. Give you credit, because that's definitely a good skill. We're trying to get our skills honed in. So we're getting there. We're doing our best.
One step at a time.
Yes. And if you want to follow me on my Instagram, follow me under Swami_Chronicles under Doña Junta. Or you could, of course, follow the page Beyond the Facade Podcast. You want to say any last words?
You can. Sure. I'm observing spooks and other vices. Type that in, you'll find me. It's not a completely dead page. More content will be coming soon, even though I say this every single time. I actually mean it. And no, we're enjoying this ride. And again, we've been doing this for the last 10 years. Not podcasting, but we've been actively investigating places and looking into things in history and urban exploring for the past 10 years together, me and my pal. And we're just so happy to share this with you guys, because it's something that we truly love. And we hope that you love it too.
Yes, yes. Alrighty. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.
Bye.